I will be showing you the game from a Chicago Open tournament and against Grandmaster Nikola Sedlak, and this will be the first time we're doing a YouTube premiere. Which is like a live chat, so make sure you tune in to watch this. So this game is played in 2010. Chicago Open is one of the biggest open tournaments in US, probably the second biggest. I mean, World Open is a little bit bigger, but it's a very strong tournament. So my opponent is a strong Grandmaster from Serbia. So I played d4, knight f6, c4, g6. At the moment, do we know the opening or not yet? Do we know which opening is this?
King's Indian?
Close, but we have to wait for one more move. Okay, one more move, and then we would know exactly which opening is this. Because it could be King's Indian, yes. Like let's say if he plays Bishop g7, that's King's Indian defense. But my opponent played, that's why we don't know, it's unknown at the moment, but we will see. But after we play the move, actually he played King's Indian, but he quickly transposed into the d5, and this is now Grünfeld defense. Okay, see, I could have played e4 here, stop him from the Grünfeld. See, if I play e4, that's it, there is no going back now, no more Grünfeld for him. It's very unusual for a Grünfeld players to play King's Indian, and not often you see players that play the both, because they're two completely different openings, the King's Indian and Grünfeld. But here my opponent shows that he's ready to play King's Indian, but in this move order he's also happy to play the Grünfeld defense. So many different ways white can play against this opening, but it's a very, very tough opening to crack. So you can try many different lines here. You can play Bishop f4, Bishop g5, e3 even played, but Queen b3 is very sharp lines, but I went for the classical, taking on d5. This is the very main line, takes, c5. From the first glance it looks like it should be really good for white, because white has the control of the center, and the pawns are controlling many squares. But on the other hand, black has a pressure on d4, so he has a good counterplay, putting pressure on d4 with knight c6, castle, bishop g4. So this is kind of what he wants to do. He wants to castle, knight c6, bishop g4, and put lots of pressure along with this diagonal. So the bishop on g7 is a very good piece. Okay. So white has a couple of options here. He can play rook b1. He can play rook b1 here, one of the main lines, or you can play the move bishop to e3. So I play bishop e3, protecting the d4 pawn. So now if he takes on d4, I can take back with the pawn. So the idea is to try to protect the center. Now we play queen a5, attacking the pawn on c3. At the same time, threat is to take on d4. The threat is to take on d4, and I cannot capture back with this pawn because I'm pinned. So I really have to play this move if I want to capture back with a pawn. So let's see if you can find my next move here. Which move do you think I played here? I really
Queen
want
d2?
Yeah, Queen d2. Another idea is Bishop d2 as well here. I can also play Bishop d2, but it doesn't feel right to go Bishop e3 and then go back Bishop d2. Normally in the opening you don't want to do that. You don't want to move the same piece more than once. And plus I want to develop a piece that is not developed, which is my queen. So this by going back, it's not really, in opening you should try to avoid doing that if you can, moving the same piece more than once, and to play retreating moves. So the bishop is already on e3, but you go back, that's like you retreat. So that's why I go queen d2. Now he castles. Now, rook c1. This is an important move here. Rook is always very vulnerable on this line, and it's always hanging, and that's why I want to play the move rook c1 to protect on c3, and at the right moment I can play also the move d5 now because I already protected my c3 pawn. Earlier I can never play this move because let's say he goes here. Let's say I play this move, bishop e3. If I want to chase the bishop, I will lose the pawn on c3 and my queen. So normally when you have a center, you want to try to advance this center, because more you advance, you enter to his territory, so you're going to control more squares. So rook c1, rook d8 played. Now putting pressure again, and this is a typical way of playing the Grünfeld defense, that you develop pieces, you put pressure, and you bring them to attack on d4. Now I have to make a decision here, because he's already threatening to take, exchange queens, so I really have to do something here. What are my options besides just playing, let's say, bishop e2 that will allow the capture? Is there anything else I can try to do here? D5, yes. It's a very strong, I would say, principled move. Principled move. If you want to have an advantage, you have to play this move d5. Otherwise, you probably end up in an equal position if you play bishop e2. So this is a very principled move d5, and now the idea is to play c4 and strengthen the center. So I really want to play this move next, and of course he will play e6. So this is normal, you know, once you start advancing, black will try to attack the center. Now I play bishop e2 because my king is stuck in the middle of the board, so I want to develop the bishop and castle so I can have the safety for my king. I don't want to keep my king in the middle of the board. So it's very important for you to do the same. When you feel like you're behind in development, you want to get the pieces out and castle. So that's why you play bishop e2 and castle. He takes. So I have to take back, and bishop g4. Bishop g4, activating the bishop and putting pressure on f3. c4. My idea is to strengthen my d5 pawn, and if my opponent takes, I can capture back. In fact, I have options here. I can capture back with the king, with the bishop, with the knight. Probably with a knight, bishop e2, king e2, and an endgame like this is actually quite unpleasant for black because I have a strong passed pawn, and my king is well placed in the middle of the board. In the endgames, you want your king actually to be in the middle. That will be closer to go to both sides of the board. So if it's on one side, I wouldn't want to castle here because then I'm too far away from my pawns here. So in the endgame, when there are not so many pieces on the board, especially the queens are off the board, it's okay. It's okay to have the king in the middle. So he plays. So you don't want to go into this because he's just slightly worse. Play the move queen a3. Trying to keep the queens on the board, and the queen is on an active square. Definitely putting pressure on my weak pawn on a3, and also he's controlling this two squares. Now, what do you think I should play here? I think it's time. It's time to play which move?
Bishop to g5.
Could maybe play bishop g5. You could maybe play bishop g5. Attacking the rook. bishop g5. So bishop g4. Say rook e8. The knight goes to d7. Not sure. I think his rook is actually at the moment rook on d8 is not very effective because he's just attacking this pawn, but this pawn is protected, so he can never take. But I think now we play bishop g5. Now suddenly he's on open file. So I'm not sure if this helps us to get much advantage. So
Or you can take the pawn at c5.
the pawn on c5 is protected by the queen, so he cannot take right now because he'll take back. So any other suggestions? Castle, yeah, of course. Castle. This is a move that you don't want to hesitate. You don't want to keep the king in the middle again. Many bad things can happen if your king is stuck in the middle of the board. You could be in big trouble and lose the game. So safety of the king is always the number one priority when you play chess. It's much more important than winning some material, because now the king is safe, the rooks are connected. Now you have a really good game. Now he played knight c6. Look at that fancy move, knight c6. And we cannot capture because of the pin. The pin, and white will be losing the queen here. Okay. So black is developing his knight, and now he's threatening to enter some of the central squares. Let's say on d4. So of course you can play like knight d7 as well here, but knight c6 is just looks better. Now what to do here? Decision. To make a decision here.
Rook c3.
Rook c3. Bishop takes.
Oh yeah. Disregard.
Yeah. So
h3.
h3. We could play h3. I just kind of anticipate that he will take on f3 next, and he will plant the knight on d4. This is what he wants to do. He wants to take. I take back. Then he wants to go knight d4. This is what he wants to do. Okay. This is what he really wants to do. h3 is a good move, but I think that's going to happen anyway. So I don't think I want to. It's not a waste, but it's, I have a more useful move for this position. So I'm going deeper. I'm already anticipating sort of what is going to happen here. So I want to have my pieces lined up the best way when he starts taking on f3 and playing the knight d4. So I'm trying to be 2-3 steps ahead here in anticipation of that line, because I don't think he has other good ideas here except taking and putting the knight on d4. Definitely a candidate move, h3.
Rook to b1.
Yeah, rook to b1. You could play this move, but let's say he just plays b6. Just, he's not going to give us the pawn, yeah? He will just strengthen the position.
g5 now.
Bishop g5 now. And let's say rook d7.
Okay. Now we can hold the pawn. We can gain space with d6.
Yeah, but d6, it's a big commitment. Yeah, d6, because d6 you step away from your pawn chain, and you're no longer going to be protected. You're no longer going to be that securely protected anymore. Okay, so d6 is a little bit dangerous.
Rook fd1.
Rook fd1, very close.
e1.
There you go. Yeah. You know why? Because the e file is the open file, right? Right? And we know that rooks belong where?
Open file.
Open file, right? So I would put it on d8 if I'm going to be able to push it. But here I know that he's going to start taking. So it's not an easy move to make. Rook fd1 is a very natural move as well. But here I know that he's going to maybe take on f3 now. And I want to have that opportunity to have a rook there. And he took. Because he doesn't have too many other moves here.
Why that rook? Why not the rook at c?
Because this rook is already developed, and this rook is not. Yeah, but this rook is still doing some protection here, covers certain squares. In fact, if you go here, you actually might get into a little bit of trouble with this move, because you left that square, and now he's got this side, and this is called, what do we call this in chess? Skewer, right? Excellent. So again, this kind of positions where it's very, very close, every move is important. You can't just play any move. You'll very quickly lose any of the advantage if you have any. So here it's very, very close, borderline, like black hasn't done anything bad yet. So so it's very important to play the most precise moves. So he didn't see anything better than he went for that line. I don't know, do you guys see maybe anything else black could have done? He took here. He took and went knight d4. Do you see maybe another, some other ideas, some alternatives?
Rook e8.
No, the knight, I can take the knight now. The rook has to stay here to pin.
Yeah.
Rook has to stay to pin, that's why. For example, knight e5, right? Looks like a normal move. Knight b4, by the way. You see why knight b4 loses? Or it's bad? Yep. Take the pawn, and now this is hanging. Winning this. If he goes knight e5, now you can take. Now if you take with the bishop, you're dropping the bishop on g4. So it has to take here. And now look at that. Now attacking this. If he takes, take the bishop, up a pawn. If he doesn't take, he moves the bishop. Much better. Take the rook. Little tactic. What kind of tactic is knight f7? What is the name for that tactic?
Intermezzo.
Intermezzo, right? Intermezzo, in between move, yeah? Before, you capture, you insert in between move, and then you win material. Always look for these ideas. You'll be surprised how often even grandmasters, they miss this kind of in between moves. It happens all the time. Like little ideas. Because here it changes the evaluation. With knight f7, white is nearly winning. Without that, it's just better position. So not easy, as you can see, not easy to move. So he went for the critical line. Lady 4, okay, knight e5 looks natural, but again, this kind of move, it just looks good for one move. Then you simply drop the bishop back, and then it's unclear what is the knight doing here, because all the squares the knight can go to are simply cut off by this bishop. So remember, if the knight is on e5, this bishop on e2 is doing a great job cutting off the squares the knight can go to. So this knight actually really belongs on d6 here, but I don't see a route that he can get here anytime soon. So this is a clear advantage for white in this position as well. So he played knight d4, and big moment in a game. Big moment, big decision needs to be made here. What to do with this knight? Leave it there or take it? Again, by taking the knight, that's a big decision, because you're giving up your bishops. The pair of the bishops, remember? It's always important to have the pair of the bishop, and it's most of the time it's considered an advantage to have the pair of the bishops. Only in very rare positions where it's completely locked up, the bishops cannot maneuver as well as the knight. But in general, two bishops versus bishop and knight is considered an advantage most of the time. And here is no exception. So the question, but he has a threat there. He wants to take the bishop. So you have to either move that bishop or part away with your dark square bishop. Take your time a little bit. Try to calculate, get into the position, so you can decide what the best move here is. It's always tricky when you have, decisions, like here. Keep the bishop, take that knight. Okay, let's see who is ready. Let's see. Yes.
Actually, you should take the knight because if it comes to b3, it's going to fork queen and the rook.
Yes. Well, the knight is this
Yeah.
square is covered for now, but the knight is causing a serious trouble here. Just immediately threatening to take the light square bishop. And the only way to keep the bishop is, I don't know, to play bishop b4, I guess.
Yeah.
I wasn't so sure. I thought, it's just too much movement with the same piece, And now, okay, I put this bishop here, but what is it doing there? I mean, it's kind of biting the granite here. There's not much going to happen here. So black plays like b6, rook e7 doubles the rooks. It's pretty compact here. So the other alternative is not much better, to play bishop d1. So I give away my bishop, but I knew exactly what I want to do here. So black has two options. He can take back with the bishop, or he can take back with the pawn. My opponent took back with a pawn, which may seem it's strange considering that he can take back with the bishop and have a nice bishop. But if it is the bishop, I think I'm keeping a small plus here after a very important move. Very important move. If I don't have this move, I have nothing here.
Rook e7.
Rook e7. And now I have a rook on a 7th rank attacking the pawn here. He goes here, and look at that. How quickly I'm getting some initiative here. And then I have d6, bishop d5 coming in. And now we go back to see the moment where I played this move, rook f e1. See? If I had played h3, he would have taken, we got the same position, but I would have a pawn on h3 instead of the option. Imagine we would get the same position. He would for sure take back with the bishop, and I don't have rook e7 here. So that's why he took back with the pawn, because he didn't want to allow my rook to go to e7, because now his queen is kind of part of the game and covering the e7 square. Again, very important move needs to be played here for white. Otherwise, no advantage.
C5.
Yep. You have to play c5, because otherwise he will put the queen on c5, he will blockade this pawn, and these pawns are never going to go anywhere. So this move c5 is absolutely important to play. Now I have these two nice pawns in the center. Okay, the c5 pawn is going to be attacked immediately, because otherwise I was going to maybe consider playing d5, bishop takes b7, bishop goes to d5. So he plays here. Now attacking the pawn on c5. Now what to do?
C6.
c6, yes. Takes.
Take.
Take with what?
Pawn.
Correct. d3. He says, your pass pawn is on a 3rd rank. I'm going to get my own. I'm going to get my own on a 3rd rank. Let's try to understand what is the major difference between white's and black position here. Because it seems very similar. I have a pawn on a 3rd rank. He's got a pass pawn. We both have pass pawns on a 3rd rank, but there is a major difference here.
The first pawn is protected twice for white, and for black is protected once.
Well, his pawn is protected twice as well.
Oh yeah.
But the way that my pawn is protected, he can never take it. Because he can never take this, because I'll take the rook. But his pawn is not protected by a bishop, so this pawn is a little bit vulnerable. Okay? A little bit vulnerable here. So, what to do here?
Bishop to e4.
Bishop to e4. Yeah, it's a move. But the way I was visioning to win this game is somehow to be able to push this pawn. Push it to c7 and play bishop b7. And move this rook and queen. That's what I'm thinking. But I cannot play this right away, because if I play this right away, he gets this. Now he wants to take my pawn. So I can't just do it right away. So
So
I go here, rook ed1 now, bringing more pressure to the d3 pawn. And now my queen can move somewhere. Here I can never move my queen because all of this d2 threat. See, if I do something like this, big problem. My both rooks getting forked. So that's why I cannot do that. So I play this move for that purpose, just to put it a more stable square and to put pressure on the d3 pawn. Okay? Now he goes bishop e5. He's covering the c7 square, so I cannot push that pawn. Because now he can just take it. What should I do now?
queen to d5.
G3. It's a very important move that gives me a lift, escape square for my king, and also restricts the diagonal of the bishop, takes away the f4 square. At some point he could play bishop f4 and attack my rook. So this is a multi-purpose move, an excellent preventing move. Okay? Now I get my escape square for my king, so it's good. Now he goes queen d6. Again, his problem is that pawn. That pawn on d3 is vulnerable. Yeah, but if we take the rooks off the board here, for example, then I cannot win this position. So it's important that rooks are on the board here. So I play king g2. Very useful move. Moves the king away from the back rank, so there are no checks, there's no some diagonal checks, and at the same time protect the bishop. Now he goes queen f6. See, bishop is protected now. Otherwise he would go there and start attacking. Now, what should I do?
Queen a5.
Excellent. Queen a5, activating the queen and attacking the pawn. And at the same time keeping an eye on this square. Remember, we always want to play c7 when we can, to play bishop b7. That's how we're going to try to win this game. He goes h5. He says, you know, I'm going to push and create counterplay.
C7.
Now let's stop it first. Let's not let him get, you know, let's not let him get that activity, okay? We don't want to allow h4, h3, then we have to worry about tactics. We don't need that. Just go there, calmly prevent his advance. He goes king g7. Now he says, okay, my king is very safe too. What do you have here?
Take the pawn. The queen.
Rook c4. Rook c4, taking the pawn. Taking pawn is a possibility, but okay, keep in mind he has rook a8, rook a2 as well. So you might be a little bit backfiring because the rook is going to be on a second rank. What I'm trying to do here is I put my rook on a fourth rank so he can never play the d2 move with a tempo. And I'm trying to see if I can somehow surrender and win this pawn. This is my plan. Rook is well placed here, can go to a4, can go to e4, and it's not going to be hanging. Rook d6 played.
I think now you can do the pawn to c7.
Queen b5 I played first. Pawn to c7, you gotta be very careful because now he will just drop back and now it's a 1, 2, 3. 3 attackers on me. And I cannot just play the move like rook here because he can push the d pawn.
What
As
if
a
you play
decoy.
bishop to g4 after he does that?
sorry. This bishop g4 takes.
Oh.
Nah, ignore me.
That pawn is very important, yeah? That's why he played h5 actually. He anticipated that happening, so that's why he played h5. So, okay. So I played the move queen b5. This allows me to play queen b7, and now I'm putting an eye on this move, on this d3 pawn. I really want to get that d3 pawn. He goes queen a5. He was getting a little bit in time trouble, so now I was just trying to make moves that are going to be kind of annoying for him to deal with. When an opponent is getting low on time, you make moves that are more annoying, more difficult to respond against. Okay, they might not be necessarily the strongest moves, but the moves that will create problems. Yeah, so it's an interesting idea to do. So now that queen looks a little bit awkward. No, on a5. What can you do now? That doesn't feel right. That last move doesn't feel very right here.
Rook c5.
Absolutely, rook c5. Look at that pin now. Vertical pin, yeah? Now he's getting more uncomfortable. He doesn't want to play f6. f6 really weakens the position, you know, the 7th rank and everything. So now he goes rook b8. Clever tactic. He's trying to use tactics to change the outcome here. Well, you of course should ask first of all, why can't I just take? Do you see why he cannot take? Why I cannot take? Huh? He's trying to complicate the position, which is the right thing to do. When you're in trouble, you're losing, you gotta keep it complicated. But my question to you is, why can't I just take the rook? What's the hidden trick, you know, that he has?
Rook f6.
Rook f6, correct. I'm just up a rook, and now he plays rook f6, and now he has pressure here, and my queen is under attack. It's a big trouble because when I drop this, I drop the rook as well here. So I'm dropping a lot of things here. Okay, there was some computer move rook d3. Queen takes d3, queen b3 back. But to be honest with you, I'm not too certain if I can win this position. Much better, but I'm not sure if it's just like totally winning. Okay, look, when the guy gives you a rook, Grandmaster gives you a rook, he's got something, you know, so you just got to make sure you don't just, you know, immediately take. You pause, you think. Now, I need a good square for my queen, stable square. Queen c4. Now everything is guarded. I'm ready to push c7, and I'm keeping a close eye on d3. Not to mention the move bishop d3 I have. He plays d2. He plays d2.
C7.
c7. He pushes, we push it, right? We gotta respond. Here goes rook c8.
Bishop e7.
Bishop b7. Very important to play this move because otherwise, once he plays rook d7, you're gonna lose this pawn. You lose this pawn, you got absolutely nothing. The only thing is this pawn. So bishop c7. Now I'm attacking the rook. Again, he's counting on some tactics. Look at that move. He's counting on tactics that they're gonna help him. And he plays a move in a time trouble, thinking, okay, he's gonna have some checks. If I take the rook, he's gonna have some checks, some bishop sacrifice ideas, or it actually takes. So I cannot take the rook. But now, what do you see in his position here? Do you see something called overworked piece? It's a very common thing, right? Overworked piece. It happens in almost every game, yeah? When one piece is doing more than one thing, multiple things, and eventually that piece is just become overloaded.
Queen.
Queen. Queen is overloaded. It's guarding the bishop. It's guarding the rook. If you can think that way, then it's going to be very easy to see the next move that I play. Because my idea is simple. Deflect the queen. How are you going to do that?
Rook to F5.
Rook 2.
F5.
E5. That's
Or
E.
E5, sorry.
E5.
Yeah.
Look at that. Just take it. Now he takes it.
I lost.
And then after this, up a piece. He takes. Let's go back home. Safe and solid. And he resigned because he's down a full piece. Down a full bishop. Not even a pawn to show for it. You understand? He cracked the 10, obviously. I mean, position was already difficult. This is already a difficult position, but I think he started to play really awkward, this queen a5. So it's one of the best things for him here would have been to actually forget about this pawn and try to get a bishop on b6 and try to get some kind of blockade going. That's probably the best way he could have tried to play this position. Yeah, I don't think I like this whole rook lift ideas. Perhaps he can try to play this. Bishop d4 says, you know what, I'm just going to give you that pawn. Go bishop b6. And it's very hard to win a position like this. I have a pawn, but I can, let's say here, he just goes here. And it's going to take a lot of efforts to move that bishop from there. And the presence of opposite color bishops gives more drawing chances. Got it? Excellent. Now we will do a couple of medium difficulty positions and see how well you do this. Maybe we'll do one on difficult one too. Okay? So this was my game from that tournament, okay, that I won. So let's move on now to a little tactics. I'll set up the position, give you a couple of minutes to try to find the way to win. White to play and win here. Let's see if we can find a plan. And this is a game between two grandmasters, okay? Two grandmasters are playing this game. White is down exchange. And if he doesn't do anything quickly enough, he'll even lose the game. Yes, in the back?
Bishop G5.
Bishop g5. Excellent move, yes. Bishop g5. And what is the idea?
Attacking the rook and the possibility to checkmate it.
Yep. So rook d7 is my only move to try to defend this. And now do you see the regrouping idea? You just regroup the pieces. You just swap them. You just swap your pieces and then it's going to be a game over.
Queen
Queen h6 check. Bishop f6, and with unstoppable mate on h8. Do you see what just happened? Look at the original position. Just swap the pieces. Queen goes on h6, bishop on f6. That's your mating net on h8. h8 square, remember, it's one of the most difficult squares to protect. This is very difficult to protect. Because to protect that, you need like a knight or a rook, or, you know, it's very difficult. So that's all you do. You just swap them, and then now it's just mating. Can't even do anything, actually. Okay? Nice work. Yeah, I thought this would be a fun one for you to do, because it's not that obvious, actually. This idea, again, from practical point of view, I'll tell you, if this was a quick game, you know, a lot of grandmasters might not be able to see it so quickly. Yeah, if you have lots of time to think and you kind of feeling the position, you know what you should be doing. Yeah, you probably find it, but it's not just out there to see it quickly. So very nice. Moving forward, position number 2. White to play and win. This is a game of Grandmaster Gata Kamsky, who was a U.S. champion, I think 4 times. So what to do here? White to play and win. White to play and win. Make sure our position is correct. Yeah, position is correct indeed. Played in 2016, this idea. Okay, you got the first idea, but I need you to go deeper, because it's not so easy to just...
Bishop takes.
Okay?
Pawn push.
Yeah, pawn push, there is idea bishop f8 there. And it protects g7 and hits the queen very quickly. Of course, the first thing you should be looking is rook f7, because that opens up the position.
Rook takes f7. Bishop takes f7. Rook takes f7 easy.
Aha! King takes f7.
Takes h7, check.
Okay, there are 2 moves in that position. He can go king e8, he can go king e6. So can you see a little bit more, or should we put the moves in? Yes?
Rook takes, then bishop takes.
Uh-huh.
Rook takes.
That's what he's saying, yeah. King takes.
King takes. Pawn push.
Pawn push, I'm not sure, because he can just take that. All right, we're on the right track. Let's just put the moves in. That will make it a little easier. Takes. Not e6, okay? E6, there's some kind of a defense. Okay, it's probably still good for you after queen g5, but it's queen f7. Capture the queen, captures your queen. And then we down exchange at the end. At the end, we down exchange. Okay, let's go back. This doesn't work so well. I think we have this line, right? So we got to this point, and my question was, I can go to e8 and can go to here. So first of all, if I go to here, let's do this one. It's easier. What is the move?
Take the pawn.
Queen take G6.
Goes here.
Bishop F5.
F5?
Oh,
That works too. You just choose this way to mate. Exposed king, pair of bishops, and a strong pawn on e5. This is not going to work out well for black. So that's mate. And if he goes to king e8,
bishop B5.
Bishop b5 is probably winning. Yeah, bishop b5, king f8. But what about king f8?
I can just take the pawn.
Queen g6, check. Now, if he goes here, then we have the bishop b5 check. The king goes back, we have the queen e8 mate. And if he goes here, then I think we can go check. Check. Won't take yet. Check. 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 Look at that cleanup here, huh? Take everything. So he has to play the only move, king f8. And now you want to push him to the light square because then you have your bishop coming in. You want the king on the light squares because you have a light square bishop, yeah? Queen h6. Goes here, then bishop g6 comes in, e6 comes in, so he went here. Nice. If he goes here, look at that mate. Check. The strength, yeah? Strength of the position. Now he went here. No, he actually here. It's very bad. It's mate. So he went here. He's like, can you take my queen at least, you know? You don't even want to do that yet. Check first. If he goes away, we take. So he has to go here. Oh, we have another bishop here, right? Look at that check. And he resigned finally because there's too much. He goes here. So many ways to win here, but let's just finish it this way. Check. Check.
Queen block.
Checkmate. Got it? So ability to attack. Kamsky had no problem finding this in a real game. Again, the difference when we're doing it here, when I set it up, you already know there is something there. But when we are playing these games, right, Grandmasters, we're playing this, it's, you don't know. Sometimes the tactics, they don't work. You have to spend a lot of time calculating and trying to understand whether or not it's going to work out. So that's the difference. At the end, let's do a fun study, okay? Studies where it's actually, it's not a game, but it's just composed, okay? This is composed. Few of the students here might be familiar with this. Maybe I've showed before, but it's really a lot of fun, this study here. White to play and win. How to win this position. Got a knight. It looks like you're so close to checkmate, you know, but it's not a position where you go check and checkmate. That would be too easy. It's gonna require a quiet move idea at some point. A quiet move idea.
So it can have more than one move, right?
Yeah, there's no restriction on the moves here, but just to win it. We don't need to do this in like 2 moves or 3 moves. So when you see a position like this, first you make a short list of your candidate moves. Usually the moves that look very natural here. So what are your candidate moves here?
Queen D3.
Queen D3 1, and what's the second candidate move? Even more natural than Queen D3.
E7.
Aha. Queen E7, right? You have a feeling. When you play enough chess for a while, you have a feeling sometimes which move is the best. Usually when you enter and get closer to the king, that's oftentimes a good idea. No exception here. So that's the first move, check. He cannot go to backwards, you know, if he goes there, it's going to be game over instantly. Checkmate.
Can we do?
And it's mate here as well. Okay?
Can we do first move as king h5 and then?
But no, you don't want to do anything like that is going to allow checks, because once they start checking you, it's a wide open board. You're not going to have a place to escape. So you most likely will end in a draw here. Don't allow him to check you. You want to be the first one who checks. Now, this next move is hard because it's not as natural. In fact, it seems like what are we doing, you know? We're letting the king escape, you know?
King G4.
No, it's got to be a check. It's got to be a check. It's got to be another check here, huh?
Queen G7.
Queen G7, but then he escapes king F5.
F8.
Correct. Correct, yes. And if he goes back to H6, checkmate this way or that way, it doesn't matter. Whichever.
And, he can still escape to F5.
Yes. Now, strong move needed now.
I mean, going to G6.
Queen E6.
Going to G6.
Better.
Better.
Not the most natural move here.
H7.
Queen H7. Correct. Now, he has to go to F4. Whenever you're forcing him to make the only moves, you're getting closer. These 2 squares are not possible to go because of knight fork wins the queen. So he has to go here, and the most difficult move of this position. Again, always remember, series of checks, but at some point it's going to be a quiet move that sets up the winning idea. After you find this move, it's going to be over immediately. No, not queen e7, no, because he goes king f3 and he's going to escape. You don't want to allow king f3 because king f3 then he escapes away. King f3, then his queen will come. It's important to stop the king f3 move.
Queen h5.
Yeah, but then he escapes on e3.
Queen d3.
Aha, queen d3. Queen d3, and now let's try to see what is the threat here.
Queen g3.
Queen g3 is a one threat. Let's say he moves the queen somewhere, so queen g3 is now very effective. Then you have
Knight to e.
g6 is a mate. Knight g6 is a mate here, so you have a mating threat. Knight g6. So you cannot do that, and he doesn't have a check on d8, which is important. You cover that, and he cannot go back to e5 because of which idea?
Knight force.
Knight fork is good,
Or
or queen check is good. And the last idea, if he takes your knight,
Queen
F1.
f1.
queen f1, and you win the queen. Okay. Then you win the queen. So again, let's go back to the beginning. So we start out with the queen e7 check. You found out pretty quickly, king has to go to g6, knight f8 check. Not the easiest move to find because knight goes a bit awkward position. And again, queen h7, again, like moves like queen e6 are more natural, but you go queen h7 here, cannot go to f6 or e5, so it has to go here, and then you play queen d3, setting up the knight g6 mate, and queen g3 as well. All right. Okay, well, great job, everybody, and we're gonna have another lecture later on after this with very interesting topics. So if you have time, please stay, and thanks for coming.